What's up, desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and today I am joined by Ron Gordon, who is only 3 or 4 days out of the 2022 INDY Pro, and he's looking absolutely insane. Ron, welcome to Desktop Bodybuilding.
Welcome. It's my first time. Thank you for having me.
Man, it's a pleasure, and I've been a big fan of your physique, man. I remember seeing you compete. I'm not sure when your last contest actually was, but I remember seeing it, and I was incredibly impressed, man, with obviously your height. You're pretty tall, so how tall are you?
I am 6'1".
6'1", and that's pretty rare in today's pro bodybuilding, because you see many of the guys, 5'9" and below, pretty much for the most part. And you're sort of like a bit of a throwback. You've got the very small waist, you've got the very bubbly muscles, man. Your delts are absolutely outrageous. I'm a big fan of your overall structure and aesthetics. Is that what you're trying to bring back, sort of a bit of the old school, because you've packed a ton of muscle onto your frame now?
Yeah, I mean, I try to go as big as possible, but it's hard to chase my metabolism out of town. And Chris, Psycho Lewis, and Abdullah, they're really big fans of the aesthetic look. Abdullah trains Brandon Curry, and Brandon Curry keeps his waist in check. And Chris trained Shawn Rhoden. He kept his waist in check. So, the three of us are really big fans of the aesthetic look, but I don't think I can really spill over if I try. I've tried so many things. I can't get huge in a bad way if I wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. And it sort of shows on your physique as well too, man, because when I look at physique, I'll actually pull it up while we're chatting as well. Bring up Instagram and stuff. But your physique, almost like when you see like some of your body parts when you're training and when you're filled out, when you can tell obviously you've had a bit of a feed or whatever, your muscles look extremely full, like they're bursting. But it's like you're sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say maxing out your physique, but you're maxing out what you've got on your frame right now. And it looks pretty awesome. I mean, I've sort of said on a recent episode of, I was on one of the recent episodes of Heavy Muscle Radio with Dave Palumbo and Chris Aceto, and we were talking about Rafael Brandao, and we were saying about how I'm like, that's the sort of physique I'd love to see doing actually really well in big contests, like, the Arnold Classics and the Olympias and things like that. And you've got that same sort of physique. And there's a lot of guys like yourself, like Rafael Brandao, like, Sibu, who just missed out on the Arnold Classic South America, and Samson Dowder. There's a ton of guys like you, Quentin Araya, and it seems like there's a new wave of guys coming in. Do you sort of sense that and feel that as well?
I do. And I kind of want in on the party. Last year, I had to sit things out. I was dealing with an injury, and I saw a lot of that growth in taller, more aesthetic guys. When you're talking about Quinn Beachwood, Samson Dowder, you can't forget him. In the strides that he's made in a very, very short period of time. I'd say I think all of us came in within the same 2-year time frame. Between 2018, 2019, we all pretty much hit the scene. So yeah, I think bodybuilding is looking for that next wave. And I think the beautiful thing about the guys that you just listed, including myself, is like we are all fortunate enough to turn pro at like 70%. Where a lot of guys, they darn near have to max out what they have just to turn pro. And we all kind of turn pro as like these stringy string beans with just great shape and separation. And now we can pack on the mass, but it still looks very, very pretty.
Yep. When was your last contest? Was it 2020 or 2019, or when was it?
2020, I did the Cal Pro. I did a very short prep right after I did the Tampa Pro.
Yep.
I didn't do too well in the placing. I thought I looked good, but apparently I didn't.
I actually remember that show, man. I remember seeing how you looked, and I thought you actually should have placed better, to be honest. So I do remember that pretty distinctly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things in bodybuilding. That was an odd show. It was the Cal Pro in Las Vegas. We all had to wear masks. I think, if I remember correctly, Antoine Vaillant won.
Yep, I remember one.
That was when he secured his Olympia placing. So,
and it was funny around then as well, because Antoine went from like 7th or whatever he got at the New York like a week prior to actually winning that show the next weekend, and he jumped many of the guys from a weekend prior. So there's a lot of guys that I think were very, very close.
It was a very interesting show. Some of the guys I had beaten in the Tampa show, they jumped me in the Cal show. And again, I'm not one of those guys that's kind of in disagreement. I firmly believe I have a physique very similar to Dennis Wolf's, in that if I peak well, I mean, that could be worth 4 or 5 placings for me just because I have so much to fill out. And if I don't peak well, it could also be 4 or 5 placings in the other direction, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like that a lot in bodybuilding right now because like we saw last year, we saw the end of last year, we saw Reagan, Raphael and Samson all going back and forth in those end of year shows. And it's just so close between all of them. And I absolutely love to see it, man. And I think it's a real exciting time in bodybuilding. But obviously now you're what, is it 3 or 4 days out of Indy?
3 or 4 days out. So I guess I'm dead set in the middle of what we call peak week.
Yeah, how are you feeling? I suppose it's a silly question, but how are you feeling right now? Are you loading or are you depleting? What's the sort of plan?
I'm loading. I'm cooking right now while we talk. But peak week, I always tell people peak week is a little bit less stressful than the week before.
I agree.
Because peak week is when you do all your administrative stuff, you travel, you secure your tanning, you know, all of the glitz and glamour, you know, all that kind of good stuff. The week before, that's pretty much what you're going on stage with as far as your conditioning. And peak week is just when you don't screw it up, in my opinion.
Yeah, from 2 weeks out to 1 week out, it's like the last push. And then the last week is just, okay, let's just get it all in order sort of thing to say.
Yeah, don't get hurt. Don't go to the show and forget your trunks, you know, show up on time, all that kind of good stuff that we take for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned to me before the interview, and you probably don't want me to say this, but you said, I want to mention my coaches, you know what I mean? Your trainer and your coach, and you're coached by, you know, diet-wise by Abdullah, and then obviously your coach in the gym, Chris Psycho Lewis, who I've interviewed in the past as well. And I love Chris. He seems like a, you know, such a good dude and very, very genuine. What sort of role do they both play, and do they communicate with each other in terms of your prep and all that sort of stuff?
They communicate sparingly, but they actually communicate through the visual. Abdullah sees what Chris does to my physique in the gym, and Chris sees what Abdullah does to my body, you know, nutrition-wise. And it's amazing that without that direct communication, they can both tell what the other did. You know, Abdullah knows through like really, really hard, strenuous training, and Chris can tell when I've had an increase in carbohydrates or fats or whatever, just based on, you know, looks on my face or my energy level in the gym. It's a really good working relationship. And I'll be honest, like I think I have the best team in the game.
Absolutely, man. Well, you've got obviously the man who trained Shawn Rhoden for his Mr Olympia win. And then you've got the man who prepped Brandon Curry for his Mr Olympia win. So you got a pretty good winning combination there as well.
You know, I gotta hold my end of the bargain at some point.
Now, I just heard an interview with Chris Psycho Lewis by Dennis James on over there on, I think it's the Muscle and Fitness or Muscle Strength channel. And he was actually mentioning that you were sort of saying like, hey, I want to train with you or whatever. And you kept hitting him up. And he said, well, I'm going to kill this guy and then he'll go away. And you just took it, man. So it says something about your work ethic. And like I've seen some videos of him training you in the gym for legs and stuff like that on social media, and he looks like he's killing you, and it looks like you're putting in all the work. So has this been sort of has he trained you every year, I suppose, the last couple of years, or has this been sort of a recent thing where he's just smashing in the gym?
We've been together since COVID or the pandemic was at its peak.
Yeah.
So for about approaching 2 years now. Yeah, so during that time frame, you know, Chris was just kind of hibernating. You know, everybody was trying to figure out what they wanted to do as far as when and the pandemic was over with. And I contacted him. I said, hey, I got a gym, you know, now it might be a little bit of a drive for you, but, you know, let's see what we can do. And like I said, he probably thought to himself, okay, yeah, I'm going to smoke this guy so he can leave me alone. I got nothing else going on. So, you know, bless his heart, he drove all the way down to me, which was about, at the time, let me see. I want to say his drive had to be about an hour and a half.
Oh, awesome.
He drove down to train me 3 times a week. And yeah, he he went to work on me. And the thing about me is, you know, people always talk about bodybuilding in terms of being a good hammer and how strong. I like to pride myself on being a good nail. You know, I can take a beat, and at the end of the session, I'll just tell Chris, thank you. I'll see you on Tuesday. You know, I'll see you on Saturday. I think he can appreciate that because he's the same way. Like there are times we'll finish a leg day and I'll be laid out on my back on the floor and he'll just walk off, you know. no good job, bad job, great. He'll just walk off. And that's cool for me because like I'm really big on consistency. I don't do well with, oh man, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread or anything like that. You know, I've been in the military and all that kind of good stuff. I know that bodybuilding is a process, and I think with Chris and I, it's a great working relationship.
You said you were in the military. What were you doing in the military? Like, how long were you in there for, and how long ago was that?
I was in for about 6 years.
Yep.
6,
awesome.
yeah.
What was your experience like there? Like, were you, was it a local sort of thing, or did you have to travel a lot with it or anything like that?
Well, they treated me like a baby. I'm not going to lie. I had some opportunities. They could have deployed me, but I was a smart college kid, and they said, "Ron, we want you to finish college and focus on that." So they allowed me to focus on those things, and they never sent me away. So that was really nice. I had a really great experience in the Air Force.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool in the Air Force. That's awesome. Now, this is a recent photo, I believe, that you've posted up, and as people can see, your shoulder to waist and everything, like the amount of size you have on your physique, your waist is absolutely tiny. How small is it?
Competition day, I think I get down to like 31.
I suppose because you're just so tall and you got so much mass, it looks even smaller than that. Because I hear some guys say, "Oh, I've got a 29-inch or a 30-inch waist or whatever," and yours look smaller than that. So that's damn impressive.
I question anybody outside of Flex Wheeler that say they
Yeah,
have a 20.
I agree as well, because I remember when I was like maybe like 17 years old and I did my first contest, and I was like 28.5 inches. And, I measured mine when I was in my early 20s, and I was like known as having a small waist, and it was like still 30. I'm like, oh, I'm like, okay, like, so, but your waist looks absolutely tiny there, and it's damn impressive. But what are you hoping to bring, I suppose, to this INDY Pro in 3 to 4 days time compared to what you brought to the stage last time? Is it just a little bit more size overall? Is it more conditioning? Because not in this photo so much, but in the other photo, you can see the real deep separation in your legs and between the muscles and all that sort of stuff.
When I assess what I bring that some guys might not have, is I have really, really deep separation.
Yeah.
And I have a level of hardness now to my physique that I probably didn't have in previous times. I think in early on, I've been relying a lot on shape and symmetry. And I was kind of lacking on hardness and density. And I think we really, really improved on the density aspect of things and hardness. I've been really hard for about 3 weeks now already.
That's awesome. Yeah. And sometimes when, some guys, when they're really, really hard, they tend to get just almost crisper and harder and drier. And working with obviously the coaches you've got, I'm sure they're going to absolutely hone that in and you're going to absolutely nail it. But then there's other guys that get hard too early and they just sort of start to fade away. And it seems like you're one of those guys that probably gets hard and just sort of keeps getting harder because, like you said, you almost can't spill. So you can just keep forcing the food in and just sort of stay full.
That's what we're doing this week. We're doing something a little bit different than we've done in the past. With regards to loading up and preparing for the week, because we have a little bit more room for error than most people, and also think that because we've been in shape so much earlier that we can kind of play the push-pull game all the way up until showtime and have really good results.
Yep. Now Chris did predict that you will. He basically got asked, on the spot. He said, give us your top 3 placings at the INDY Pro, and he predicted you to win. Do you see that as a distinct possibility of happening in 3 to 4 days time? Because that would get you obviously your qualification for the Olympia and all that sort of stuff. Do you see it happening?
Yes, I do.
I love it, man. I love it. And I love that confidence too, man, because a lot of guys do shy away from that. And guys that like yourself say, yeah, I do see it happening. I think that's really, really cool. And I love to actually hear it because some guys are a little bit too scared to say it, or they think they might come off a certain way, but I think that's really, really cool. Now, where do you win it? Like, cause you're up against guys like Justin Rodriguez, who's, obviously placed top 10 in the Olympia easily. You're up against a Blessing Waterbu, who, disappointed a little bit last year, but coming in this year looking really, really good. Charles Griffin, who is almost the total opposite physique to you because he's much, much shorter and very, very thickly muscled and all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying you're not thickly muscled, obviously, but, just a very different shape. How do you win? Is it just do you think your structure overall with the hardness, and that will sort of, you're obviously going to sort of stick out, a lot different to these other guys?
Without dissecting them and their various weaknesses, and I have my weaknesses as well. I think that when I go over in my mind, pose for pose, and we go apples for oranges and things like that. I don't see anyone on that stage having more winners than myself. I know in the past I had some poses that I felt like I struggled with, especially like rear lat spread and things like that, but I brought that up. My rear double is really, really good. My front relaxed, my symmetry round is going to be amazing. And I think the tail of the tape for me is going to be my separation. I think a lot of the guys are either where they're going to be, and it's not going to be too many more different looks that they're going to be able to bring to the stage, or some guys who are just not there yet. So I'm not going to say who is not going to probably be any different than what we've seen. And I'm not going to say who I think still has a little bit of room to grow, but that's just kind of how I feel about the field right now.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because with judging in shows as well, I always say the guys with the most separation or almost advantage when the judges are slightly back a little bit, because when the judges are up really, really close, they can sort of see the finer details on guys that maybe lack a little bit of separation. They can sort of see the hardness still. But when they go a couple of rows back, and depending obviously how deep the stage is and all that sort of stuff, I think it makes changes in the judges' decisions, because I've sat all different front row compared to 20 rows back compared to 50 rows back, and you get a totally different perspective. So hopefully for your sake, the judges are a couple of rows back and they just see that deep separation, man, because I love that look, to be honest. When guys really do lack that separation, it's just large amounts of muscle on a physique, and I personally am not as big of a fan of that. So I really I'm not just saying it because I'm interviewing you now, but I really do hope you do really, really well at this INDY Pro, man, because it's an awesome lineup, and I just can't wait to see how you actually fit into that lineup, man. And I suppose I can't wait to see that first call out, and hopefully you're right in the middle of it.
Thank you. I feel the same way. People ask you redundant questions as you get ready for a show. How do you feel? Are you excited? And you really don't get excited until about Wednesday or Thursday of that week, because that's kind of when you start getting carbohydrates and you can see the finish line, and you start putting together all of the things that you've done to get there. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. Like I said, I'm pretty confident. I feel as though there are probably more guys that are concerned with the unknown, which is me, than them. And I like being in that position.
Yeah, for sure, man. I would be as well. If I saw your photos leading up to it and I was competing against you, I'd be terrified. If I was one of these other guys, man. So cannot wait to see how you look on stage. Do you have any sponsors or anyone you want to thank before we wrap this thing up?
Betha Pharma. They've been taking care of me for the last couple of years. They're based out of Mexico, with my man Jose. He's been taking care of me, sent me out to Mexico, treated me really, really well 2 times. High Tech Pharma, they've been there for me. I don't post as much as I should. I'm going to be better at High Tech. My local food sponsor, Lean Feast Corona, they've been taking care of me throughout this whole prep. And, that's a lot of protein, a lot of steak, a lot of chicken. And they haven't batted an eye. And they usually have my stuff nice and fresh within 12 hours. So those are the main folks. I'm sure I'm forgetting some people here and there, but it just chalk it up to brain fog. But just a lot of people have been helping me along the way. Fitness Mania, my home gym here in Riverside. The owner, Mike Enns, he's been in my corner during the pandemic and throughout. And obviously Chris Cycle Lewis at his gym, which opened up in January, called The Body Shop. It's my second gym home. And of course, when I go to Kuwait, Oxygen. So just a lot of people in my corner. And like I said, it's time for me to uphold my end of the bargain.
Yeah. And the Body Shop, that's in Cali, yeah?
Yeah, Redondo Beach, California.
Yeah, awesome. Man, eventually when I'm able to get over to America, obviously we haven't been able to the past couple of years because I haven't been able to leave Australia, but I'd love to get over there, man, and check out, obviously like Chris's gym and do a tour of it and, see all you guys and do a tour around the US, because I'd love to get over there and, check out Chris's gym and do the whole tour around the US basically. And you can give me some advice on where I can go around Cali and all that sort of stuff, man.
Absolutely. Get a workout in too.
Yeah, for sure. You absolutely smashed me. But mate, thank you so much for coming on Desktop Bodybuilding. I really, really appreciate it. Everyone, watch out for Ron Gordon this weekend at the INDY Pro. I believe there's a live stream out there. I'll try to remember to put the link in the description of this video. I'll put the link to your Instagram in this video as well, Ron, and make sure you check him out on there as well. And stay tuned to Desktop Bodybuilding for all your coverage of a 2022 INDY Pro. So for Xavier Wills and Ron Gordon, we are out. Hope you guys enjoyed my interview there with Ron Gordon, who's competing this weekend at the 2022 INDY Pro, which I'll be covering here on Desktop Bodybuilding. So make sure you do subscribe and hit the notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of all the videos that go up this weekend from the 2022 INDY Pro, and the next video that goes up will be a 2022 INDY Pro preview and prediction show as well. So make sure you do stay tuned for that. And if you did like this video, please give this video a thumbs up and smash that like button as well. Also head to hdmuscle.com, enter the code DESKTOP, you'll save yourself 10% off your entire order. And if there are sales on there already, you'll save yourself an additional 10% as well. So make sure you do use that code DESKTOP, and the link is in the description below as well. So that's it for me. For Xavier Wills and Ron Gordon, we are out.